Tabletop Spotlight, brought to you by Dragon's Lair Comics and Fantasy. Hey everyone, I'm Adam Harry from Bell Lost Souls Tabletop News with
Chris from Dragon's Lair Comics and Fantasy.
We're back with another Tabletop Spotlight, and this time you brought a very interesting RPG today.
Yes, brand new Overlight, the RPG just came out. It's a fantastic system about a world where humans screwed up the keys of creation and have wiped out the sky and the universe. And replaced it with a sea of stars and a sky that always is one color and never changes.
Okay, so humans screwed stuff up. I'm shocked. And, wow, so this is a very brightly colored game, but the layered universe now, white sky, deep sea below.
Everything is powered by the different chroma, which is the abilities you have.
That explains the dice.
Of course. And then there's a couple of unique things we'll talk about with the game, but it's a very beautifully done game, very high fantasy, and the chroma, which again is the abilities, is the magic of the universe that gives you a lot of flexibility for what it looks like.
All right, well, color me curious because there's the rainbow here. So I am very interested to see where Overlight's going to take us, so let's dive in. All right, Chris, we've got Overlight here. We've got, obviously, the dice and the book here. I don't feel like we really need to open the dice, but we can talk about it real briefly.
Yeah, sure. So the dice here, as you can see, each single one of them has a different symbol that matches up with the 7 different chroma, as it were.
And we'll go over that in a second. Yep.
But it's very cool. I like that they're big and colorful. And one of the nice things is these dice play into every single die roll you're going to make in this game. You're going to always have a D4. You'll have other dice too, but a D4 is in every single pool. That's why these dice are oversized, and I think that helps make them more prompt when you're looking at your character and seeing what's going on.
Yeah, very cool. And I mean, it's a set of 7, and they're thematic and built into the system, so cool. All right, put that to the side. Now let's talk about this book. This is a big hardback book. How many pages are we looking at here?
Ooh, probably 300.
I'm gonna guess. Yeah.
Oh, see, I was pretty close.
333. So anyway, Overlight here, very colorful, obviously based on the rainbow, we can tell here. Looking at the table of contents, can you give us like a quick overview? You mentioned it earlier, humans screwed up creation, but what all happened, like just real high level?
So, following Earth's history up till about 1000 BC, humans were on the regular path to everything, and the celestial beings were pretty happy with how things were going because they had set up the entire universe. Unfortunately, some of those celestial beings gave humanity a little bit too much credit, and against the will of the overall body, stole the keys of creation and brought them to the humans, and gave them a single instruction: don't use the black key. Guess what the humans do?
First thing, black key, boom.
Exactly. And the entire universe gets messed up. So the Earth and everything around it becomes 7 floating continents tiered up to the sky, and the sky is replaced by a big bright light that never changes. There's no night, there's no day.
Yeah.
And then the entire universe turns into a sea of stars, and the world is now floating through it.
Pretty nuts.
Yeah. And so you play an adventurer who's trying to, by a sense of righteousness, try and fix the world, whether it's on a lower level or a greater level, by using chroma, which is the powers of the different levels of the rainbow, as it were. And doing different powers, and those can range from anything from superpowers to magic, stuff like that. Some can create kind of super sciencey effects, little things like that. But it's set in a fantasy world.
Very cool. So this is a fantasy setting. Sounds like it's a mix of technology and science and all that fun stuff. Let's go ahead and go through there. Obviously, we've kind of covered the introduction. The shards, those are what, the Sky Islands?
Yep. Each of the shards is one of the different 7 islands where different races and different prominent chroma take place.
Okay.
And then so you can pick one of the different races. They have bird people, they have gorilla people, giant red volcanic people, stuff
Very
like
cool.
that.
All right, so that's basically where you're from, essentially. And then we have the Skyborn, which is going to get into the character creation and classes and stuff like that.
Skyborn is what you are. It defines you as something a little bit different from everyone else. That's why you have chroma, which is your powers.
Okay. And then we get into the Shard Law, which I guess is going to be the rules and kind of how to play the game. It talks about the different tests. Now, we mentioned this earlier with the chroma. Let's go ahead and skip over to Shard Law real fast on page 112. One of the unique things we were talking about this game before we got into it really was the chroma and how that affects your tests. But also there's stuff built in when you fail, right? Like, how does that work?
So when you're taking tests, almost all of your tests are going to be determined by 7 dice. You'll get 3 dice that are usually a trait related, so your physical traits, stuff like that. And you'll get 3 dice that are usually skill related.
Okay.
You're trying to roll successes based on 6 or higher.
Okay. What kind of is this? A D6 system? D8?
It depends on what your skills are. You'll have D10s in some system and some traits, and you'll have D6s in others. So sometimes you're really good, sometimes you're not.
Interesting.
The D4, which is your 7th die, represents your spirit die, and your spirit die can manipulate rolls for the better, or if you roll critically bad, can take away it. And if you don't have enough spirit, you start getting what's called shatters. And every single power, and I think there's over 150 different powers in this, has its own unique shattering. So each one will define your character based on the power rather than just some sort of generic table that everyone rolls on.
Wow.
And
so the more you use a power, the higher the odds are that particular power could break, and then that could have impacts for your character. In what ways?
So those impacts aren't just subtle role-playing impacts. They can actually force your character into certain roles that they normally wouldn't. The one example that I noticed was the speed one, where you can move super fast.
Yeah.
Well, as you start shattering that, you start craving it more. You sort of become an adrenaline junkie until you hit your final one, where everything is boring to you, and you spend the rest of the game struggling to maintain your composure while listening to things that aren't moving fast or high in adrenaline. So
basically, you just get ADD.
Pretty much, you get super ADD, and it's.
But it makes you go fast, so you want to use it, but
Exactly.
at the same time, okay.
And then one of the other cool things they do with spirit points, which is what you use for your dice pools and everything, is they don't recharge. You have a certain level you start with, and during the game, if events happen that your DM says, hey, you feel good about this, your morale's boosted, you get some points. That's the only way to get points. You can't sleep it to recover it. You can't rest. You can't heal. You have to earn it by doing something.
So this game is very narrative driven, very narrative heavy. Let's keep flipping through here. You mentioned the Char law, kind of how to perform checks and stuff like that. And this does use, obviously, the full polyhedral spectrum. So
I believe it goes up to D10s is the highest I've seen so far.
Yeah, I did see here there's 3D6s. Obviously, we're using D4s and D8s. And you mentioned the D10s earlier. So, okay. That's a cool take on that. What else has we got here? Obviously, there's going to be combat situations.
So the combat's pretty neat too. One of the fun things they did is because it's narrative driven, and the creators of the game, I think, had a very direct approach to how combat works. Is a weapon is a weapon is a weapon.
Okay.
You don't have differentiation between an axe versus a dagger. If you're stabbed by something, it's going to hurt. So when you're rolling to do damage, all you're doing is checking how much damage you do to the other person with whatever weapon you have.
Okay.
So it's more based on your skill and trait than what it is you're holding. An axe is still going to hurt as bad as a sword if the person who knows how to wield it is doing the right job.
Okay. Cool. Let's keep going on here. Radiant powers. This is the power section you're talking. I want to pause real fast too. The artwork is fantastic in this book.
Yes, I am a big fan of I mean, I like the bright colors and everything, but this art is fantastic. It's very stylized, and I like that it has its own unique flavor.
Yeah, it's got a very painterly, very, very cool look to the whole book. But the radiant powers is what we were talking about, where this is the kind of the mystic, the mix of magic and science and
it's magic,
superpowers,
it's superpowers, it's all those different things. I think, like I said, I think there's over 150 total ones, and you see, if you look at them, they usually combine 2 different things, and then they let you do everything. But again, every single one of them has its different shatters listed on the page, so you can see what that power will give you as you break down from using it too much and failing at it.
Cool. All right, let's keep going here.
Sure.
We kind of skipped over the character creation. We mentioned that's going to be one for one of the sky shards there.
Yeah.
But this section's basically like huge, right?
Oh, it's phenomenal. Huge. I mean, we're still going.
Yeah, this is all almost radiant powers.
Getting there.
As you can tell, this book's a big chunk of it. Like most RPGs with magic in the system, there's going to be a fair chunk dedicated to just using magic.
And you got to remember too, because the system is so heavily dependent on the chroma, that is your primary thing. There's not like a fighter class, because your chroma is going to play into if you're a tank or a healer or something else.
Okay.
Of course, you've got your storyteller section, which is going to follow after, called Secret Wisdom, because of course the DM has to know what kind of wisdom there is in the universe.
Right.
But this is just going to talk to you about the basics of how you run a campaign,
Sure.
Almost every game has one of these. Super helpful. It gives you campaign notes so you know all the different worlds and stuff like that.
Yeah, this is the section that players probably shouldn't read, but they may want to read their specific. Like if I'm from a specific place, I may want to read up on that specific place just so I have a general background. But it's really going to be up to the game master to determine all that fun stuff.
Exactly. That's going to be up to a need to know basis on what you want to give away. And of course, you've just got more stuff for the campaign settings. And then, of course, you've got your myriad of beings, which is all the different kinds of things you can encounter in this crazy, colorful world.
Well, I'm seeing a D12, so we're up to D12s now.
You've got a couple bigger ones. I knew traits can only go up to D20 that I saw. And of course, these have different dice that you're running into. You'll notice that health is just a straight number. Again, when you roll damage when you're doing combat, you're just seeing how many successes. That's just how many points of damage you do. So it's very straightforward. It's also one of those games where your life is very valuable because it's not exactly like you're going to have 200 hit points at the end of the game.
Right.
You're going to have, a little bit to work with, and you got to be smart about it.
Right. Again, very narrative driven. Maybe find a way to talk your way out of situations instead of just going in gung ho. That doesn't mean you can't. It's just
you want to be safe.
The risk is
it.
there. Yeah.
And of course, you got all that, and then you've got the Sage of the Prison, which I believe
is an adventure. Yeah.
Yep. So you've got your free adventure at the back, and that's your way to get in if you have no idea where to start, and you're a GM picking this up for the first time, and you just want a little bit of help with it.
Cool. Well, that's pretty much all we're going to show off. There's lots more to this book, lots more to this system, but it's out in stores. But let's hop out for a really fast recap. Well, that was Overlight. That is quite the RPG. There's a lot to chew on there.
Well, it's got its own branded system, and like I said during the one we were looking into it, I really like the fact that there is permanent disadvantages you can gain simply by playing the game.
Yeah.
I mean, most games, you have to do something to actually warrant it. This game is just part of the game.
Yeah, it's built in the whole, what was it, the breaking, the shattering
of the chroma and stuff like that.
That's a really cool mechanic, and you go from like being perfectly fine, and just over time bad stuff happens, and it's reflected in your actions and your character. I think that's a really cool mechanic. So.
I think it's a really fun roleplay mechanic to actually force those kind of flaws onto people and let them play it out, as opposed to just becoming bigger and better forever and eternity.
Right. So you're gonna have those cracks, obviously. So pretty cool stuff. Let's go ahead and crunch some numbers on this stuff real fast. Now, obviously, Overlight is an RPG, so group size and playtime obviously going to vary. Let's go ahead and talk price points real fast. What's the price point on both of these products?
So this big, gorgeous hardcover is only $50, which is perfect price for an RPG.
Yeah.
I like that. And then, of course, you've got the dice here, $15. Now, you don't necessarily need them, but these dice are gorgeous, and I personally like that they have their own symbols for the 4 on them. Just for them, so. It's
very thematic, and I mean, honestly, it's 7 D6s or D4s, excuse me. So, I mean, that's a pretty good buy, and they're oversized too. They're not like the regular D4s you get in like a polyhedral set.
Yeah, and I think they did that intentionally, so because of how important that spirit theme is to this, that you want to be able to see those dice above everything else. So.
Definitely, very cool stuff. So go check out Overlight. This is brand new. Right, it's in stores right now. Go check it out. I'm Adam here from BoLS,
and Chris from Dragon's Lair Comics and Fantasy.
And this has been another Tabletop Spy. Thanks again for watching.
Take care.
Click to subscribe. Check out more videos. And thanks for watching.